Hi, I'm Paul Haynes, and today I'm going to demonstrate pruning roses. We're going to use this example of Heaven Sent with a beautiful perfume, and I'm going to show you how to prune this. When do we prune? So pruning generally is the 8th week of winter, which in Australia means the end of July, last weekend of July. Now if you get frost in your area, you might be looking at mid-August. Look at 2 or 3 weeks later when the last major frost is cleared. Instead of cutting the plant down to knee-high, as you've probably learnt, you can do things a little bit differently. We'll cut this bush down about 1/3 or 1/2 of the height of the bush, and that's adequate. How far above the bud do we cut? What we say is the same thickness as the stem. So if the stem here is about 10 millimeters thick, you'd cut about 10 millimeters above the bud. What we're going to do now is we're going to cut the top off the bush, stand back, have a look at the bush and see what we want to do. So I want to cut off about here, and you can see I've got my glove on one hand. These will make great cuttings as well if you want to propagate and make some new plants from them. Again, I do a step-by-step guide to that in the book as to how to do it. So what you can see here is I've cut about 1/3 of the top of the bush. Now what I want to do is look at where is there something that's unproductive, that's not doing anything. Where is there something that's dead, an old cane. So if you look in here, you can see here this is a nice old cane. Very hard for me to get in with my secateurs and get that out. But what I've also got here is a bit of dieback. So I'm get the plant next to you. So cutting out that dieback, this dead growth, you can see the growth here. I've cut it down below where the death is, where the dieback's gone. Really what I want now is my loppers, and we'll get in with the loppers. See if I can get in here so you can still see. Put the lopper in here and cut through, and that's where you want your second glove on. To cut out some of this dead growth, the older, I can see there's little branches sticking off the side here. These little small unproductive branches, it's a little stem, got not much growth on it. It's not going to produce flower growth off that, so we can just lop those off. And I can use the loppers for that. Couple more in here. The next step in this, there are small canes in the bush that don't produce strong growth, little tiny thin canes. We want to get rid of all of those. Or if you have a stem that only produces those canes, there's nothing strong or good coming off it, let's get rid of those as well. So I'm just looking here and going, things that aren't very productive. I look at this and I think there's a nice cane here, there's not a hell of a lot coming off here. Once I cut off the hopeless bits, is there a point in leaving all this on? I don't think so. What I try and do is look at how much growth's coming out of it, how much energy. Not much in that case. I don't like leaving these little sticks on the side. But you see, I'm not spending a lot of time thinking about, is it outward facing, is it inward facing? My height's about right. I do cut at an angle because it's habit, but it's not necessary. And you can see it's starting to tidy up very quickly. If we look at this one, what I look at and say, I've got a little spindly stick here, little spindly stick here, spindly stick, spindly nothing. Is there anything decent coming off this whole stem all the way down? No. So do we need it? No. I could, there's a couple of options. I could cut it back down here to where there's a good bud, but I've got these other growth off this branch. My inclination is to go down and just take the whole thing off. What I'm going to do now is, you've got a few less productive canes in here, and again, sometimes getting your hand around to turn it that way, I don't worry too much about it. Okay, so here these weren't really big, strong, extra growth. What I'm trying to do is get back to here where we've got a cane that's going to produce something that's of decent growth. I've got this one coming back on itself. I'll get rid of that. Actually, I'll get rid of that whole stem on the basis that this should send out new growth as well, and this will send out new growth, and that's where the stems will come out. Just have a look at these, and I've been inclined to leave it to these couple up here. Get rid of this, get rid of this. I'm quite happy with that prune. I pruned a little bit higher than last year. I might just, you know, go around and tidy it up a little bit, check where I've actually cut, because some of these were the rough first cuts. Other than that, very happy with that prune. The next thing to do with this plant, which is equally important, is I'm going to spray this with a spray of lime sulfur. Now you want to do this fairly quickly, ideally within a couple of days, if not within a week. The spray with lime sulfur, what it does is it kills off a lot of the bacteria and fungus that will overwinter, in that it will stay on the plant during winter and it will come back with vigor as soon as you get some heat. The last thing I'm going to say to you is everything I've done today, apart from putting this little stick in, is covered by my book. It's got a step-by-step guide. It's got a guide in terms of all of the things like putting Epsom salts on, what water shoots are, how to identify them, how to fertilize, when to fertilize, how to propagate. So all this material that we've cut off today, I could be making new roses from that. And that's something you can do for a bit of extra fun.